This is Blessed Radio, and it's 6 p.m. on Tuesday evening, UK time. This is the Spiritual Discussion Program. I'm Saad in southeast London, where it is now dark and, let's say, a little cold. And with me, as usual, is Gregory. Gregory, how are you doing, and how is the weather where you are?
One is fine, the same as you have in London.
Okay,
Dark,
yeah,
a
dark,
little cold. Yep.
dark and cold. Very good. Okay, welcome listeners to this Spiritual Discussion Program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushin. And every week we have a new topic for discussion. The topic tonight is actually a quote from the Grail Message. So the topic tonight is first recognize yourselves aright. First recognize yourselves aright. And you're welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. Call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 004479 39641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1, that's the number one, .com. And if you scroll down on the home page, you will see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. I'm going to begin with, what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Uprushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Excuse me. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Uprushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with seven seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace, if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic that we are discussing tonight is first, recognize yourselves aright. First, recognize yourselves aright. And if you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number one, .com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. Now, I just want to just to say something about how we chose this topic for tonight, which is called First Recognize Yourselves Aright. So this is a quote, as I said, from the Grail Message. It's in the lecture, Consider What is of Benefit to You. I'm not actually going to read out the whole quote just now, because I just want to make a start on this topic first, and then later on we will go through the quote. It's quite a long quote. So again, to remind everybody, the topic tonight is first, recognize yourselves aright. Now, Gregory, as you know, I like to look at the meaning of the words in the topic. So the first word, look at the word first. So there we go. First, in the dictionary, I found these meanings, two meanings. The first one, coming before all others in time or order. And another way you can look at it, this word first, is earliest. So I'll just repeat that. The meaning of the word first, coming before all others in time or order, or the earliest. So, Gregory, what do you say about this meaning?
It's precise. It's good
Okay,
enough.
that's good. And the second meaning, it says foremost in position, rank, or importance. How about that one?
That is already a pointer. The first and the second almost equivalent.
Right. Now, the next word is recognize. So again, in the dictionary, I've got two meanings there for recognize. First one, identify someone or something from having encountered them before. Know again. So what do you say about this one, Gregory?
Well, again, you find it is precise because there is identification. That means there's an association with what had already been marked out, what had been experienced. So it's precise.
Yes. I mean, what I note is that you sort of encountered them before. That's what is very interesting there. So again, I don't want to explore too much just yet, because we're going to go through it deeper in a moment. Now, the second meaning for recognize, it says acknowledge the existence, validity, or legality of. So, what do you say about this one, Gregory?
These are just descriptions. I think the first one should be followed. It gives all the basic features that one needs to use.
Okay, that's good. Now, the next one is yourselves. So, the first meaning I found, or actually a phrase I found, I should say, for yourselves, or synonym almost, those ones that are you. So, if I'm honest, that sounds a bit awkward. So, those ones that are you. Does that help, Gregory?
Yourself is so basic that it is almost impossible to reduce it
Yes,
to something else.
right. Okay, so let me go to the second meaning. They said you personally. So, this is the other meaning given, you personally. So,
Well, that is also okay. And
hmm. Okay, next one, the word aright. So, there in the meaning, I've got correctly, properly. What do you say about this one?
yes, these ones are good pointers.
Okay,
But
that's right.
on the whole expression, whatever words are used, again, these have a framework.
Mm.
And only when viewed from that context, only then will it make sense so that one is able to use these expressions in a way that, in quotes, brings forth recognition. And that framework generally, which we have always mentioned, is the framework of the laws of nature, of creation. I'm afraid one cannot go out of this framework, for it's only within this framework that motion can be discussed. And all that we do, all our expressions, all our identifications, anything that exists in nature, in creation, is in motion.
Right. So, well, we will look at this more as we go through the topic, in fact, itself, which is, as we've said, is first recognize yourselves aright. So, it's referring to us, of course. So, we need to recognize who we are, but aright, correctly, you can say. Okay. So, I can say we are human beings. I think that is an assumption that is agreed by everybody. So, we are human beings. Then the question comes, because it says recognize yourself first, recognize yourself. So you think about, okay, what is a human being then? So now, question on that one, Gregory, I would like to ask, since we are on this earth, we know we have a body and we have a mind. So, Gregory, can I ask you this question? Are we human beings the body and the mind?
Question is that which we recognize when such questions are posed is that we're using the five senses which nature has granted us, which five senses are used to, one would not say recognition as such. They are used to identify. And because that word body, that expression body, can be identified using the five senses, and it's an integral part of the body, it makes sense. So one would say yes. In the case of the body, it makes sense. But in the case of the mind, that is an area which has not been explored. Does the mind means one's thoughts? Does the mind refer to one's intuition? or a combination of both. So these are areas which have not been explored or investigated thoroughly in order to distinguish that which is of the mind and that which is not of the mind.
Thanks for this answer, Gregory. So that's quite a lot of things you've said there. Uh, you know, uh, as you say, we are trying to recognize, distinguish, identify, and there are different ways or different tools of doing that. So the five senses that we are aware of, feel, touching, um, hearing, seeing, and I've forgotten the other ones, but we know them in any case. They're all, you could say, physical. So and that one we are very familiar with, like I say. So that is one aspect of the human being, but that's not everything. That is, there's the mind there as well. And as you questioned, Gregory, maybe is the mind having the thoughts, or is there more than that? That is maybe not so clear for us in our understanding. So, but it does exist. We do say we have a brain, and that does the thinking. So, I guess that's the mind. I don't know if you can put the mind and the brain as the same thing. Um, yes. Um, so yes, Greg, I didn't hear everything you said in your answer. Is there more than just the body and mind, um, Gregory, as a for a human being, or yeah, is there more than that?
What one was alluding to is that the case of the body, all right, is not arguable because it is accepted that with the five senses, these five senses are features of the body.
Mm.
To be able to see, you require the eye, which is a part of the body. To be able to feel, which is a touch, that is part of the body. But the five senses which are part of the body, these these are facts, which facts cannot be denied. However, of the mind, one cannot use the features of the body to identify the mind because there's just no basis. Therefore, the best one may consider is that the so-called mind is related to first our thoughts. In that case, we are quietly moving away from that which is, in quotes, rigid, which is fixed, to that which is more in motion, because our thoughts must be in motion. They don't remain the same thing, they're always changing. So you find that when the mind is referred to, first it is the thoughts which might have been stored somewhere and which are then used again. When one is referring to the mind of a child, you will find that generally it is said it's not well developed because the child's way of thinking is very elementary. So you find that the mind is tied to the thoughts, and the thoughts is must have originated from one's brain. So again, the thoughts are tied to the world of gross matter or of matter. So, but gradually, one will take the steps which distinguishes that which is used for recognition first in deeds which are perceptible to the five senses, recognition in thoughts, and finally, the other feature which is used to distinguish the human personality, that particular feature is of the intuition. So, to whenever one is referring to you yourselves here on earth, the features which are utilized first will be the five senses, secondly, the thoughts, and finally, one's intuition. Whereas when the individual has left the earth, that means the five senses and the thoughts are no more operational. They have been left behind. Then it is the intuition that is used to identify the activities of the personality.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this answer and the picture you're painting for us. I can now we have seen three features you've mentioned there: the the body with the five senses, then the thoughts coming, you could say, from the mind, and then there's this uh, intuition, um, which is coming from our personality, as you put it. So it looks like, so there's a personality, there's a mind, and there's a body. Um, okay. Um, and that is able to recognize you, especially this personality is able to recognize, you know, uh, which in a way, I really want to look into this word recognize more. But I just first, before we do that, we're just trying to set out, you could say, like you say, the context. When we begin our show, there's a context of the laws of nature. That's where everything operates. This world that we live in operates. And so it's like we need to know that as well. These laws of nature that are there. Now, I'm trying to think, Gregory. So I'm sort of going to go slightly, a little bit on a tangent to uh, just to sort of, you could say, discover things or research into things. So we are told we are living in this world, the Earth, and even let's say the universe, which is massive. The more astronomers and people, scientists are able to explore, they keep finding how big it is, and it's. I don't even want to. They can't even put a number on this number of stars that are there, and so on. It seems. I don't use the word endless, but it's massive, very, very massive. This world, and all of that is the physical world. So, and one can wonder, as a human being, we ask, what am I? Where do I come from? And you've given us the 3 points of the body, the mind, and the personality. Um, and I'm a bit curious about this personality, even, um, because somebody might think, oh, well, that's the mind, isn't it? That is having the thoughts. But somehow it seems something more than that. So I'm trying to wonder. Let me see. Um, Okay, so Gregory, yes, in my some research for this show, I was sort of my mind was sort of wandering in the sense, where do I head with my questions? We are saying the topic is first recognize yourselves are right, but then I had my thinking that, oh, where are we from, and where's this universe from, and so on. So I want to go to the universe for a moment to reflect on that. So in the Bible, in Genesis, we are told that God created the heavens and the earth, and also we human beings have science, and we're trying to find the origin of the universe, or how it all began, this process, that we came into being. They're using a logical process in science, and then in these biblical or religious teachings, it is a story that is given, and sometimes it's hard to make sense or align science and this religious uh, teachings. And many people say, oh, these religious teachings don't really make sense. Science does make sense. So, one thing I want to ask Gregory, can science explain, let's say, origin of this universe that we exist in? Or, yeah, is it somehow, and yeah, can that explain? And if it can, I have a sort of a double question, but let's start with the science one. Can this science, Gregory, that we're using, can we get answers about how this universe that we live in came into being?
Well, that's a fundamental question. The first thing one must strive to understand is, what does the so-called science do? Basically, the so-called science gathers the outermost ramification of happenings, of events in nature, and the tool which at best they use is based on the five senses. Which five senses that we all have? It explores the different aspects, the different features. That is what science does, and bases its conclusion on the outcomes of its investigations or exploration. Science itself has not considered one's thoughts because, very simply, the five senses, which are used for perception, those senses cannot really deal with one's thoughts. You cannot hold your thoughts, neither can you taste your thoughts, neither can you see your thoughts. Therefore, the role that science plays, which role is that of high limitation, it is bounded. And that being the case, it cannot even measure one's thoughts or the quality of one's thoughts. However, everyone knows that we have thoughts. So one can already see the limitation of science. It stops there. Then one went further to stress that there is also the intuition. It is only the impact of the intuition on one's thoughts and the impact of one's thoughts on the perceptions, on the tools we use for perception. It is the effect most of the time that is understandable. For these effects, as such, are made in such a way that they are self consistent and consistent with the laws of nature. So, in that case, science, which is only looking at the outermost ramification, is unable to investigate because it lacks the tools for it. For any investigation to be done about nature, about creation, in all naturalness, because it is nature, the outermost effects have to be observed, which is what science does. The other area or the other category is that of thoughts. Science has there's no way it can go there. And then the one which is deepest is that of intuitions. Intuitions and thoughts can throw light on the outermost ramifications. That is how it is. And therefore, you find that there will be a lot of changes which one may have in the outermost ramification. Science itself has to keep changing because it lacks the tool to understand aright. Therefore, science itself cannot, will not, and is incapable of explaining what the motive force of nature or of creation. It lacks because it cannot do its measures. It does, science does a lot of measuring. The way this is heavier than this brings out a tool, and it used to do that. Therefore, science must be kept where it belongs. Whereas that which is of intuition, the scope that is able to use in its investigation is much, much higher than what you have in the outermost ramifications, which is where you have the basis of science. Therefore, for one to understand or to have any grasp on the framework of creation, the best that science can do is to use the expressions which have been passed on to it, these expressions that have arisen from one's intuition. These expressions, for them to be correct, they must be consistent with the laws of nature, with the laws of creation, or with the divine will. Whereas science, at the last outermost ramifications, can only observe the after effects, and at best can do some form of confirmation that it is what it is. That is the way it is. So whoever is going to rely on science to explain things in creation as such, that personality will be disappointed, because just as science cannot explain, cannot weigh your thoughts, cannot taste your thoughts, cannot hold your thoughts, it cannot also investigate that which is much, much superior to it, because it lacks the tools.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this very comprehensive um, answer and picture you have shown us. Um, um, it shows, like you said, the limitation of science. It only can look at the after effects and not, the real source of these happenings. So it's and that's what you can say understanding we must have when we look at all these matters. Um, so before we continue to find out more about this topic, I want to let the listeners know you're listening to Bless Radio. This is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdrushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is first, recognize yourselves are right. First, recognize yourselves are right. This is a quote from a lecture in the Grail Message. And you are welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com. And there, if you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And as I've mentioned, we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, the number 1.com. We are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space, live stream. That's for the live show, which is on Tuesday evenings, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. And you can also listen to a recording of this show on YouTube the next day. You go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1. Again, that's the number 1 there. Space, Grail Message, space. The topic of the show, which tonight is first, recognize yourselves aright. And the third place where you can listen to us is um, on Zeno. That is ZENO.FM / Bless Radio 1. Again, that's the number one there. So, Gregory, we have, you know, this life is about discovery. Always we are learning. And science is one of the tools that we have been using. And you've pointed out or explained that there's a limitation with science. It only looks at the outer manifestation of, let's say, reality of life that we know, and or that there exists, and but there's more, you know. And so that means if you're going to recognize, that's what we're saying, recognize ourselves aright, uh, the science is not sufficient to do that, or it is lacking. So that's one issue that we have discovered. Then we always say there's a context. The context is the laws of nature. So, well, we know science, they look at laws. So they are the laws of nature that you would think science should be able to work that out. Um, but again, as you have pointed out already, this is only seeing the outer manifestation only. So there's this other aspect which needs to be recognized or realized, for us to operate, optimally, if I can say. Um, Now, you've talked about we have thoughts, but and then there's also this intuition. Now, when I think about thoughts, just the word ideas come into my mind, but it doesn't. It's nothing really concrete about it. It could be just this idea, that idea. It might be correct. It might not be correct. It's just like option one, option two. It doesn't, or theory one, theory two, or whatever the word is. You know, so it doesn't. There's no feeling of confidence that you're getting a real picture of reality there. So, and then there's this, you mentioned intuition, which we haven't really looked at too much. People hear it, um, this word, and they say, oh, in fact, that's what I would like, Gregory, for you to explain this intuition. Is it what people call gut feeling? Is it sixth sense? We have five senses, we know them. Then there's some people call it sixth sense, intuition, or the inner voice, or there's so many words, the voice of the spirit. Um, Please, can you help us with that, Gregory? What is this intuition?
Intuition basically is the impression that emanates from the spirit. Many have used different connotations to paint a picture. The wrong connotation is to call intuition the sixth sense. Intuition is not the sixth sense, because when senses are concerned and they are talked about, many refer to these features that is used for perception in nature, in the world of matter. These features, which are tied to the physical body that we use, that is what most of the time I refer to as senses. The intuition itself, that wave of energy that arises from the spirit, that wave of energy has an impact first on the so-called solar plexus, which is then connected to the back brain and subsequently to the frontal brain. From there, the senses take over. Therefore, it would be wrong to put one's intuition on the same pedestal with the senses, which are used from within the body. The expression intuition only paints the picture of activities that have arisen from the human spirit. These activities are pressed out, and therefore, in the case of communication, it is an intuitive impression because they are pressed out. And sometimes, if the body functions correctly with the brain, the activities, the outside impression, or the outside expression can also have an impact on the frontal brain, which subsequently have an impact on the back brain. Then via the solar plexus, the vibrations there may also have an impact on the source that issues the intuition. And that source must be or is the spirit. For the inner core of man is of spirit.
Thanks, Gregory, for this. Again, the picture you're showing, painting to us and showing to us. Um, and I understand now, like you said, this intuition is not the one of those five. We call it, let's say I use the word sixth sense or term sixth sense, and it's not one of the sixth sense. It's like another five sense, and that's the five senses that we are familiar with. Is something different, and you know, like it's from the spirit. That's the point. Um, so, is it, Gregory, something? I was going to ask really, what is the point of the intuition? What is the purpose of the intuition? Is it? How does it? You could say, what distinguishes it from the other five senses? Um, so, what is Can you tell us the purpose and the how? What is this intuition for?
Again, the stress must go back that the inner core of man, that core which is alive, or that core that strives to become alive as such, is of spirit. Its activities is such that to be able to experience in the world of matter, of which the earth also belongs, it needs to take on the appropriate covering. And when that inner core of man, that unit, that personality, enters the world of matter, it needs to clothe itself to be able to grasp the activities in the world of matter. When it arrives here on earth, it needs to use the physical body, which has been prepared for it in the womb of its mother. And in that case, when it has this clothing, which we call the physical body, it is in that case able gradually to make use of the features that the body offers. And the basic features is what had been referred to as the five senses. So without the physical body with the five senses, the inner core of man is unable to experience, to gain experience and mature, to know of the activities on earth. For if subsequently it needs to be of help to fellow human personalities on earth, the need is there for us to understand what the challenges are. Only when you know the challenges that people go through can you be of assistance. Else, you lack the knowledge and you cannot give to someone that which you do not have. So, the spirit that lacks the knowledge, that lacks the know how of the challenges here on earth, cannot assist, cannot be of help. Therefore, the need is there for it to use the physical body to gather these experiences. As long as it gathers the experiences using the five senses that the body has presented, and these experiences have a strong impact, first on the brain, subsequently on the back brain, and from the back brain through the solar plexus, it then goes back to that, through that to the spirit. Then the spirit will say it has experienced the challenges on earth. The spirit itself arose from a different place, which is referred to as the spiritual kingdom. And as it matures, is able to recognize, it's as if it opens up, it senses beauty, nobleness, virtuous things. It wishes to pass that nobility, that which is virtuous, that which is beautiful. It wishes to pass that to many on earth, such that it will share of the beautiful experiences that it has gathered in its paths from on high, also here on earth. That's communication that is required between the spirit and the physical body. That mode of communication is only via the intuitive perception. So, if that mode of communication is severed, then there is no experiencing because the intuition is an expression of the spirit. Therefore, it becomes very vital.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this, I'm going to say, explanation and the importance of what this intuition is um, about and how necessary it is for our journey of life. And, um, you know, people sometimes wonder, oh, should I think with my head or should I listen to your heart, or which they refer to when they're talking about intuition? They use that, and you don't. Sometimes you think, oh, I made a mistake listening to my heart. Sometimes people say these things. I should have listened to my head. I know these are like figurative ways of speaking or metaphorical ways of speaking, but they represent something like we are talking about now, the intuition, the mind, you know. Uh, so, and the point of all of this discussion, we are saying to recognize ourselves. That's what it is. First of all, or first, recognize yourselves aright. Get it right, what you are, what your abilities are, what um, your purpose is even. So all these questions, we need to get it right. This is the point. Um, and then, so first of all, you need to know who you are, what you are. And just now, Gregory, I think you've made shown that, yeah, or we knew already that, oh, there is a mind, there is a body, and then there's this personality. Personality, we are now saying that is, you can refer to it as the spirit, the real living core. You said, we say the core of us, the real living being. That is what the spirit is. And then the main way it expresses itself is this intuition. That's the point here. We use an intuition, uh, and all these things we are, let's say, half aware or semi, whatever the word is. We are aware, but not truly. How can I say? Certain. In is this the way we should apply this one, or we should apply that one? So these are the questions we keep having. And then Gregory, you pointed out that there is this laws, the context of all this world that we live in are the laws of nature. So I know we've mentioned them many times, but I think it's a good idea to recap those as well. Um, I think before I do that, I just want to let the listeners know you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdrushin. And if you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that: www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And as I say, the topic for our discussion tonight is First, recognize yourselves aright. First, recognize yourselves aright. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, the number one.com. And if you scroll down on the homepage, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type any questions or comments. And as I've already mentioned, we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, the number one.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number one, space live stream. That's for our live show, which is on Tuesday evenings, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. And you can also listen to a recording of this show the next day, again on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number one again, space, Grail Message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is first, recognize yourselves aright. And of course, you can listen to the recording of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. That's the number one. Now, Gregory, as we were mentioning, or I was mentioning before, there are these laws of nature that we've said many times in our previous shows as well, which is the context of, well, every show we have to bring up these laws because that's how the world has come into being. The laws of nature brought us into being, brought this world into being, and then we must operate under these laws. So it's a fundamental thing to know these laws. So we've talked about us, the human being, and now, Gregory, let's talk about these laws laws of nature that in which we operate and in which the whole life operates. So, can you please give us these laws?
Well, thanks for this. As with every question, many a listener must be prepared to weigh what is put forward, must be prepared to examine what is put forward. The expressions, they must weigh in deeds. That means they must weigh and examine in deeds, in their thoughts, and in their intuitions. Only when these are used again and again and again will personal understanding and personal conviction arise from deep within the individual. In this process, it becomes very clear that the individual that is making the effort is in a form of motion, that whatever he or she considers must be in motion, whether it's his thoughts or his intuitions all the things which is able to perceive with the five senses, referring to solidity or liquid or gaseous, all of these, whether they are called particle or waves, all of these are in motion. Therefore, the first task for the individual is to convince himself or herself that motion is everywhere, whether we call it vibrations or reciprocal, whatever, it is everywhere. Once the effort has been made strenuously to gain personal conviction that vibrations are motion, movement from one place to the other and return is also motion, then the second step may be taken, because having experienced it, that in fact and indeed and in intuition, motion is universal. It becomes a law, which law has always been there. Then the second step will be to understand very clearly that basically there are only two types of motion, only two, or all motion can be reduced to two types. That motion in which the end of the motion flows back to the beginning, that is one of them. And the other one in which the end does not flow back to the beginning. So all the motions which we observe in deeds, in our thoughts, in our intuitions, which are also in motion, they are reducible to just those two types, or you can have a combination of them. Now, when one considers that type of motion in which the end flows back to the beginning, that is what many may refer to as a reciprocal activity. Therefore, one may say that there is a law in nature, in creation, that law of reciprocal activities. But then ask yourself, why does the end flow back to the beginning? Quiet reflection will already tell you that it's as if there is an attraction that brought it back to the beginning. That which is referred to as a type, that is a species. Therefore, one may also hold very strongly, because it becomes a fact, that the end has flowed back to the beginning, can also be interpreted as the attraction of homogeneity. Because it has to be homogeneous before it flows back. Otherwise, it will not flow back. So from one simple observation, one already have in creation, in nature, the law of reciprocal activity and the law of the attraction of homogeneity. There is the third one, in which the end does not flow back to the beginning. It is also left as an exercise for many to reflect on. For the end does not flow back to the beginning because one is denser than the other. One is heavier. One is more compressed. And that is what many, in their observations, in deeds, in their thoughts, and in their intuitions, refer to as the so-called law of gravity. These laws, these features which have been mentioned, the three of them, manifest in all species, whether it is that species which is referred to as matter, or that species which is not of matter, which is of spirit, or the species which lies between that which is of spirit and that of matter, which sometimes is referred to as the animistic. These types, or more precisely, these categories exist in reality. These categories are factual. Therefore, when many consider them to be theoretical or theory, they deceive themselves because, very simply, no one denies that he himself or herself has no thoughts, even when he or she is unable to calculate with his thoughts, to weigh his thoughts, to taste his thoughts, to see his thoughts. The individual acknowledges that he or she has thoughts. Therefore, it is factual. Just as he or she has thoughts, so also has he or she been endowed with the intuition for communications. That intuition which the inner core of man uses in experiencing. The spirit itself and all that exists in nature, all that exists in creation, are subjected to these laws, which laws themselves do not change. They have always remained the same, for they are the laws of motion. What science has mentioned are only the outermost ramification. They haven't made any big advance. These laws, that of reciprocal activity, that of the attraction of homogeneity, and that of spiritual gravitation, they form the cornerstone, they form the basis, the irreducible basis of all phenomena, of all happening, of all behavior in nature, in creation, but never ever take our discussions for it. For the individual must weigh, the individual must weigh and examine in accordance with these laws. Only then can that which has been presented, these points, these objects in creation, only then will these points and objects, this all that has been raised, when they are examined in deeds, through observations, when they are examined in thoughts, and when they are examined using one's intuition, vigorously and rigorously, then and only then can one talk of recognition. For nature and creation presents the individual cognitive objects such as appertains in all that the individual is able to perceive using the five senses, such as thoughts, unable to perceive thoughts using the five senses, such as intuition, unable to perceive intuition using one's thoughts, but it exists. Only when things have been examined so rigorously and thoroughly will one move from that which we refer to as belief. It becomes conviction. It is this conviction that the human personality takes along as personal experiences for its maturity. Therefore, it is now able to comprehend, to recognize creation, nature, aright. Aright, which only means in the sense, in the structure, and in the operation, the way nature has showed it to him, the way creation has showed it to him or her, it becomes firm structure, such that when it is matured enough in accordance with what nature demands of him or her, and it's able to go back to its origin, again, going back, that means the end flowing back to the beginning, it has gained something through its personal conviction and is able to join the processes in helping those who have just set out of their journey, set out on their journey as unconscious spirit germs, spirit particles. They are unconscious. In joining others, in guiding these ones, just as children are guided, these other ones will come to a maturity where they become strong. Then and only then That prayer which have arisen, world without end, becomes a reality. Therefore, the human personality must awaken. Only those who are awake can come to a recognition.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this um, I'm going to say understand picture you have given us here of not only the laws of nature, but also our purpose or journey as human beings. You know how it started, and what is our, you could say, mission or task as human beings. Um, so it's quite a lot there to grasp, I can say. Um, but it's necessary knowledge that we must have. And that's why you have said, don't take your word for it. Go and examine and examine, read in the Grail Message this concepts and knowledge that we're being uh, given, and really examine it. You know, with abilities we have been given, which we have said the intuition is one of these abilities. You know, so you can sense, oh, does it make sense? Does it not make sense? So yes, so thank you for that. Now, I wanted to really, I think, go and explore. You know, the topic tonight is titled "First, Recognize Yourselves Aright," and this I have said is coming from a lecture in the Grail Message, and the lecture is "Consider what is of benefit to you." So I wanted to give you the full quote uh, of this. Because what I only chose was the first line of it or first part of it, and so I wanted to read out to you the full quote. So here it is. First, recognize yourselves aright and avail yourselves of that which God offers for your use, employing it in such a way that it can also blossom forth. Then the earth and the entire sphere of creation left to the human spirit for his activity must and will become a paradise where only joy and peace dwell. For the law of creation will then work for you with the same certainty as it must now work against your activities, and it is immovable, stronger than the will of man, for it rests in the ray of the primordial light. I think I'm going to read it again because it's quite a lot of words there. So, first, recognize yourselves aright and avail yourselves of that which God offers for your use, employing it in such a way that it can also blossom forth. Then the earth and the entire sphere of creation left to the human spirit for his activity must and will become a paradise where only joy and peace dwell. For the law of creation will then work for you with the same certainty as it must now work against your activities, and it is immovable, stronger than the will of men, for it rests in the ray of the primordial light. Okay, Somebody's trying to phone me, but I was reading this, so I couldn't take that just now. Because I think it's a listener. So, Gregory, there's a lot of things that have been mentioned in this quote here. Um, it's talking about our abilities. It's talking about our activity. We are meant to use this ability to blossom forth in the earth, on earth and in the entire sphere of creation, um, which has been left to the human spirit. And in that way, it can become and will, must and become a paradise and a joy to, where only joy and peace dwell. Um, so, I mean, first thing I'm thinking, Gregory, that's not the world we are living now on this earth for sure, with joy and peace everywhere. Um, Maybe there are some pieces where there is some joy, but uh, not really the earth, the whole earth, that's for sure. And then this is saying even the whole creation. So it's like that is what we are meant to do. Um, but somehow we are failing quite well, seriously. Um, Now, I'm thinking, Gregory, somehow my first point in it, really, question I have about this is how do we really know what we are meant to do? You know, um, everybody has free will. I know we haven't brought this up till now, but we have this free will, and you know, and we are individuals, so we all can do whatever we want in quotes there, and no two people ever agree. So I already cannot see how we can have like a um, joint activity in harmony. Maybe we can do our individually. We can have our great joy and peace in our own world, but that is not the whole earth. That's just our world only, like I say, in our own individual life. So this is far, far away, it could be what has been said in this quote, than what is reality, let's say, on this earth. So I'm trying to understand, Gregory. Well, there's a number of questions I have actually, but the first one is how can we realize this? This is our goal, Gregory. Is there? Yeah. How do we? Well, how are we meant to do it? Here we are reading. This is what is meant to happen, but um, yeah. How do we are supposed to know that what we are meant to do?
In the first instance, that piece that you yourself have read is taken from a place and there has been precedence before you got there. The precedents have always been well laid down for at the beginning, it is said, for your guidance. In that which you yourself read out, most of the time after the discussion, sometimes some of it before the discussion, it is made very clear that the human personality must come to a conviction and how it has to go about it. In most, if not all, the discussions which we have, there is the premise in which it is stressed. There is one for all and all for one. Of course, the human personality has a free will. But how do many picture that free will? That they have a free will without responsibilities? The free will which is granted to the individual is bounded by the responsibilities that individual must bear once it has made a decision. Only through the reciprocal action, only through the laws of creation, their effects on the human personality, only through that will the individual come to realize here or hereafter whether its activities have been beneficial to it or not. Activities which are beneficial to it, which brings harmony amongst others, we enrich him, himself or herself. We enrich the individual in accordance with these laws such that it's able to rise higher. Activities which have not been harmonious, which have been one sided, which have been heavy, such activities press the soul of the individual downwards. It feels heavy. For the reciprocal activity that will strike it are so horrendous that it has to awaken and awaken very quickly. The error has always been that many human personalities consider that, oh, we have no guidance. There has always been guidance, and there will always be guidance. The problem has always been, does the individual perceive of this guidance and follow the promptings of the guidance? Many only wish to do what's satisfied them on the short run. They look at a one-sided picture. But many at the same time are forgotten that just as you yourself wish to improve and live a life which is beneficial to you, so also are others. Therefore, in your activities, you must proceed in such a manner such that the reciprocal activity that will come will be of benefit and will elevate you, not only you yourself, but also your neighbors. Else, should the reciprocal activity return, it will suppress you because you haven't considered all that there is. It is not yourself alone, it also applies to others. After all, Someone gave birth to you. You didn't just fall from the sky. You had to experience. Someone took care of you. It says it all. Where is the human personality who can beat their chest and say they were not born? So there will always be excuses for the indolent ones who are too lazy to discipline themselves. There will always be excuses and say, no one told me. But if you do not ask, how can you find? If you do not seek, will you find? So it is so very clear. Excuses never find a solution to a problem. Therefore, harmony is not as difficult as many think. The state in which the earth is, in which there are human personalities, each human personality is at a different state. Therefore, if there is confusion on earth, that confusion must have been brought about by the individuals, those who have free will, and that is man. One may only enjoin many to avail themselves the opportunity to examine the work, with all their strength, examine the work in deeds, in their thoughts and in their intuitions. And before long, if they are earnest about it, before long, each will find out what he or she needs in order to live a life of harmony with their neighbors.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer and explanation. Um, I want to let the listeners know they're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic that we are discussing tonight is first, recognize yourselves aright. First, recognize yourselves aright. This is a quote from the Grail Message, from a lecture in the Grail Message. And that's not the full quote, but we thought this is interesting to discuss. So the topic, if you have any questions or comments on this topic, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio One. That's the number one .com. If you scroll down on the homepage, you will see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. Um, and as I mentioned, we are broadcasting on Bless Radio One, the number one.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube, although I must say people have let me know that they are not able to seem to get the live stream from the YouTube. So I think I'm going to leave that out for now. Um, but you can listen to the recording of this show uh, the next day uh, and on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube, www.youtube.com, and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number one again, space, Grail Message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is first recognize yourselves aright. Then you can listen to the recording of this show. And of course, you can listen to recording of our other previous shows of the past, again on YouTube. Thirdly, you can hear us live on Zeno, that's Zeno .fm / Bless Radio 1, that's the number one. And our show, just in case I didn't mention this already, our show goes out live on Tuesday evenings, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. Now, Gregory, you could say, clarified or shown us that, our task as human beings, is to build like a harmony or paradise on this earth. And it's not only there. It says, and the paradise will be full of joy and peace. That's what it is. But it's not only there. It's also in the entire sphere of creation left to human spirits. So it looks like, Gregory, we human spirits are not only active on the earth, but we can be active, let's say, beyond the earth, in entire sphere of creation. So there's a world beyond this earth that we can be active there. But we've already pointed out, we don't seem to be doing a very good job on the earth. So I'm not too sure how confident we can do this work in the whole entire sphere of creation. But then it also says that there's the law of creation. We've talked about the laws of nature, and there the laws of creation work with the the actual quote says work for you with the same certainty as it must work against your activities. And it is immovable, stronger than your will now, stronger than the will of men, for it rests in the ray of primordial light. So this last section of the quote that we've been talking about seems to be saying, Gregory, that these laws of nature or law of creation work against us now, against your activities. So what I am trying to understand from that, it looks like, so if you, in quotes, do the right thing, I think that's why it is saying aright. If you do the right thing, then the laws of nature cooperate with you or work with you. If you do something different, then they work against you. So, and I guess that's what's happening now. That's why it says now. That's what is happening. And so the point is, we need to recognize ourselves. All right, that's the whole point of this lecture or this show, and that's what the quote is saying to us. You must recognize yourself. All right, it's really necessary. Now, uh, also, Gregory, all these things are, let's say, happening through God. God has, I'm going to say, created us and given us this power, or I don't know, maybe power is a strong word, maybe giving us, well, definitely ability and task to do. And now we have, let's say, gone astray somehow. So, what help can God give us now, Gregory, when you have gone astray? Is there, because I don't think in this scenario that we are in, we can save ourselves or redirect ourselves. As one or two individuals might be able to do that, but I will say most of us are lost, if I can use this word lost, or confused, or not clear. So, is there? How does God help us human beings to sort of go on the right path? Let me say that way. Um, what's the way for us to learn? Is it we just have to so crash and then wake up like when you burn your finger in the fire and then you realize, oh, that's not the right way, and then you don't put your finger there again, and then you're more cautious. So do we learn, let's say, by through accidents and making blunders, and then thinking, oh, this is not right, we now need to change to some other way? So, or can we have, let's say, God's help, um, how can I put it, a more guided way? Yeah. So God intervenes more directly. So can we help ourselves? My question is like this, really: can we help ourselves out of this situation, or has God to intervene to help us?
Whatever help there is, that help must also be in accordance with the laws of motion, with the laws of nature, the laws in creation. So that help must be consistent with it. It's not that you have the Almighty jumping down to ignorant human personalities. For when observed correctly, the human personality came into existence only through these laws. The human personality has been granted the free will to decide how to move. Therefore, the human personality has to give account to whom much have been given. Much is expected. Therefore, one should not expect a plant that has not been granted a free will to account, to give accounts. These plants fulfill. Same thing with animals. You do not expect that an ant that is working tirelessly to give account to man. Man that has been granted much as a human spirit must give account to the resources or for the resources that has been granted to it. When it is said the resources, the human spirit started its journey, say in paradise, unconsciously, it laid there, but with the burning desire, burning intuition to become conscious. To make that possible, being in paradise, the movement in paradise, so swift, is unable to become conscious. Therefore, in love, the Almighty, in His love and through His will, prepare the paths that the human personality need to take to become first conscious of its environment. That means to become aware and subsequently to become self-conscious. That is in spirit. Become aware in spirit. Self-conscious of what? Of the operations of these laws of motion. For that to happen, in the immediate environment or an immediate environment was made possible, and that environment became the animistic. Subsequently, the world of matter with various gradations were made possible. In this world of matter, the movement was not as swift. The motion wasn't as swift. And finally, you have this world of gross matter of the earth, physical. That being the case, the earth was prepared over billions, started long, long ago, before subsequently what started as a gaseous substance took on solidity. Subsequently, you have gases, liquids, water, and before too long, plants. Before too long, animals. It took millions of years in this evolution. All for what? For the sake of man to become conscious and self-conscious. The material, the substances necessary were imbued, and gradually, in accordance with the will of the Almighty, which is represented or which manifests as the laws of nature, laws of creation, the human personality was well guided, incarnated millions of years, and supported all for one reason: to grant man the opportunity for eternal happiness, eternal consciousness, self consciousness. Many sources were made available to be able to communicate with its source. The intuition is ever present. Now, you must ask yourself, what else does the human spirit expect when much has been so granted? Again, to whom much has been given, much is expected. One thing must become clear: the Almighty does not need man, but man needs the power of the Almighty, needs the love of the Almighty, needs the laws of the Almighty. For only through these laws will he become aware. Then each person must ask themselves, how do I stand in these matters? Because the biggest problem is the overestimation of oneself. Man considering himself to be above this and above that in their stupid ignorance. So the question is now, after all has been granted, the human personality to become conscious and subsequently become self-conscious, they still ask the questions: how do we need to be? What help? We need some more help. When the laws themselves have been placed there to assist the human's personality to awake. The question is no more how to be, for how to be have been well hammered out in the laws. Either the human personality awakes from its ignorance, become conscious and self-conscious with those noble qualities, and becomes a part, a living part of creation with an identity, or pass away, return back home to paradise the way it started. It returned to unconsciousness. How the human personality must retain and become conscious and self-conscious, that has been well expressed in the work, which work is not theory, which work itself is life. That has been well expressed in the work in the light, for only in light is there life. In truth, because the truth never changes, remains the same. All that the human personality needs to do is to examine it aright and draw from it the powers that it needs to go back home as a self conscious human personality. Else, it will erase itself from creation and returns back home unconscious. That means the efforts, the love, the power, all that has been granted the human personality has been in vain.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for these words um, about the help from God that has we've been given, and how we can, really are responsible for ourselves to find the right way, and where to look for this help. This help is clear. So we've come to the end of the show, listeners, tonight. I hope you have enjoyed the topic, the discussion on the topic. First, recognize yourselves are right. And because the time is a bit past the closing time, I won't do a reading from the Grail Message tonight, but just say if you are interested or wish to buy a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And just thank you for being with us tonight. As I say, hope you enjoy the show. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday with another topic, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. And before I go, I just want to ask Gregory if there's anything he'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye.
Wishing listeners a beautiful week ahead.
Thank you. Same from me, listeners. Have a beautiful week ahead, and look forward to you joining us for next week, Tuesday. Good night.